What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Retro Film Podcast. I'm Neil D.
And I'm Giuseppe.
Tonight's episode is my pick in the teen film realm of the early 80s, and it is the OG of teen films, one of my all time favorite films, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that was in the theater in 1982, a very long time ago.
Believe it or not, like a few years ago, I want to say like maybe 5, 6 years ago, they were playing this in theater, and that was the first time I had seen the movie in its entirety. And it really is a movie to behold on the.
That was probably the 40th anniversary. I remember because I wrote an article for Top 10 Films website on the 40th anniversary tribute, which I wish I could bring up and show here. But anybody's interested, they could go to top10films.co.uk. Little plug there, and check out my article I did for the 40th anniversary. I wrote a really nice article on it. The editor loved it for the website, and it got a lot of hits. Just punching my name in, you could see it under my articles. And that was at the 40th, so we're past that.
Yeah,
But I mean, I don't think people really grasp the significance and importance and the monumental uh, attributes of this film. It's highly influential to the teen film genre, which is basically a genre right now, we could say, Giuseppe.
oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
there's several films. Uh, but I mean, this is really a significant film. It's just so different on a lot of levels, and the main difference here is okay is with the other teen films, say for example John Hughes, right?
Right.
It's centered on one main character who is the focal point, and all the other characters around them go into their life in some way, and they're dealing with an issue with these issues in high school. But what Fast Times at Ridgemont High did, which is pre John Hughes, was it was delved into the lives of six main characters, and it focused on what they were going through, but what everybody else around them, how they maneuvered themselves and dealt with things. So it wasn't just one main person, um, where you saw their viewpoint. You saw several viewpoints. Six main characters. We had Ratner, who was the pushover. We had Damone, who was the slick talker, always scheming,
Yep.
right? Scalping tickets to concerts. Hilarious character. We had the straight laced, responsible Brad, right? And we had the naive girl next door, Stacy. And we had the sophisticated, beyond high school years, Linda. And then we had the classic surfer dude, Jeff Spicoli,
Jeff
who
Spicoli.
is everybody's favorite, and everybody remembers his character.
Aloha.
I mean, the movie's so quotable for one. The soundtrack is fantastic. But what it did really was it was a raw, unflinching portrayal of realistic life of the American teenager in California, mainly in high school. Most of the teen films of that era was a bunch of teens either partying or trying to get laid. This film really captured real issues the everyday teen had to deal with. The film depicted a working class environment also. These kids were not rich. They were living in a suburban, I think it was Southern California. And really captured the early 80s more than any other film to the T. I mean, without being sappy or over sentimental, right? It really dealt with issues that every American teen was dealing with in high school, whether it be pregnancy, peer pressure, trying to fit in, trying to maintain a girlfriend, hormone issues, the classic bathroom scene. You know, I mean, right? It dealt on everything, on every level.
Yeah, there was a lot going on in this movie, and when you mentioned that it focused on six different main characters, it made it very unique in that sense because, like as you said, most movies you have a whole bunch of different characters, but the main focus is usually one person. But this one, it's like you get a story from each of these characters. And it really gave you that whole sense of what people in high school did, from, lunchtime at the mall, from the rumor mill to the arcade and the mall, all that stuff. You know, being a teenager, graduating high school and, working a crappy job just to afford a car. Two more payments, gentlemen, and this baby's mine. You know what I mean? Like that really gave you like what was on kids' minds back then. Or even when you were in high school, when I was in high school, like what was on your mind? It was like you said, meeting a girl, hanging out, going on a date, uh, having a car, getting your license was, I mean, I didn't get my license in high school, but like, I know I have friends. It was like, when they got their first car and it was like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal to people that age, especially, even if you're working at a crappy job that, you're doing your best to be good at just so you can keep your job to pay off your car.
Right. And the difference here is that John Hughes, and I keep going back to him because that was the man in the 80s,
Oh yeah,
with
he
angst
dominated.
films.
He in a sense dominated the '80s with these types of movies.
But with his films, and I'm not knocking them, I love John Hughes films. I grew up with all of them, as we did, is it centered on an underdog who is trying to fit in. That was the main focal point of his films. In every struggling aspect, trying to fit in. What Fast Times did was it it centered on every prototypical type you could come across in high school, and you had their story. Each six people that are characters, but they're telling their story. Again, like you had Ratner, who was the shy, not a ladies' man, maybe a little socially awkward Ratner, right? You had Damone, who was overly confident, arrogant, always trying to get over on people, and just always scheming. And we know people like this in high school. You know what I mean? Brad, the dude who's getting the straight A's, who has the girlfriend, the same girlfriend all 4 years of high school. He's probably gonna marry her. Probably gonna try to get a job after high school, really good job, go to college, all that kind of stuff. And then Stacy, who's the naive girl who doesn't know anything about sex, wants to know about sex, dying to know about sex, right? And then she looks up to Linda, who is kind of her mentor, who is puts on this like air of sophistication, has an older boyfriend out of high school who's like, a stockbroker or something, and wants to live that kind of glamorous life. And then you have Spicoli, who's the comic relief, who really just doesn't give a fuck. He's going through high school and all he cares about is like catching a buzz at some girls and catching some waves. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's an iconic character. I mean, the movie, and that's the thing. It's like with him being on like the poster, the box cover, whatever you call it, and just you would think that he was the main focal point of the movie. He wasn't. By far, he wasn't. And but his character was fantastic. I mean, it's iconic. It's like as little as he may have been in the movie, it was he was hilarious, dude. Like ordering food to class, sitting there just staring Mr. Hand in the face, smiling this smile like he's up to something. And it always seemed like he was too. Not in the way that Damone was up to something, but this guy always had something going on.
Everybody who is of our age and grew up in our time knows the Spicoli's quotes. I
Absolutely.
mean, I could give you an example. Let me do my Spicoli imitation. It's, if I'm here and you're here, Mr. Ham, doesn't that make it our time?
Dude, exactly. And it was like that kind of smart ass comments that like, you would hear in your own classroom when you were in high school. There was always that smart ass. I mean, don't get me wrong, I was one of them at some point, but like, you know, I wasn't as bad as he was, but um I mean, don't get me wrong, I have gotten kicked out of the classroom. Never ordered pizza to class, fallen asleep and woken up when the next class came in, but never not necessarily on his level. but it's just some of the things that he did in that movie that made it so iconic. Just you know, ordering pizza to class was one of the biggest ones, and like, one of his first lines when he walks in the room, "Aloha, Mister Hand," and
Yeah, I mean he is the standout of
right,
the obviously of the film. Everybody remembers him, and everybody got the black and white checkered Vans, slip-ons, and you know what I mean. Like it was just iconic.
yeah, and one of the great things about his
So cool.
character is that, like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you know who he is. You know the lines. It's like certain things about his character you already know, even if you haven't seen the movie. It's like you hear the name Jeff Spicoli, it's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. That's Sean Penn, and it's like, yeah, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I never really saw the movie, and it's like, oh my god, how do you know this? It's because it's so out there. It's like everything about this movie. It's like you know more, almost as much about the movie before seeing it as you do after.
And I've seen interviews with Sean Penn, and he explained that he prepared for that character. It was a guy in his neighborhood who was exactly like that. And when he read the script, he automatically thought of this guy, and he ran into him years later. I think the guy passed away, but he ran into him years later and told him. Imagine that.
Dude, that's crazy.
Like,
Man. I mean, dude,
yeah,
it's always great when you find out that like certain characters are based off of other characters. I mean, like used to see it on like Saturday Night Live with Mike Myers. I think even like Seth MacFarlane based Peter Griffin on one of his on like the security guard at the mall, and it's like it's always great to like know that there was some kind of inspiration from that. I mean, it's cool to know that actors can act and do these things and just come up with what they believe this character should be like. But I feel like it's even better when it's like, this sounds like my neighbor. I got it. Like this is exactly what he acts like. Perfect. Film it. Let's go.
I think that was Penn's for either it was either Taps or Fast Times was Penn's first film. I can't
Okay.
recall. I can't remember. It was one of those two though. Might have been Fast Times.
Right.
But it is one of his favorite characters that he's played. I've seen in interviews,
Yeah. I
which
mean,
is not surprising.
of course.
But to mention, it's a good lead way into this. That some people might not know this. We go into the deep cuts of the films too, and here is that Cameron Crowe wrote a book, and before he literally talk about method, doing things methodly. Is he went undercover in high school, in a high school in California, and posed as a student. I don't know how he got away with it, and actually met all these characters. Wrote this book on all of these characters, and then eventually got put into a film, obviously.
Right.
But he, the names probably were changed, but
Okay.
each one of these characters was somebody that he befriended while he went undercover into this high school, and
It's,
so I think that's like insane
that is
on an
insane.
awesome level.
No,
Right?
yeah, because it's like he got away with it. If he was able to get away with it just to like write this movie, whatever. But it's like you also see movies where like people try this, and it's like, oh yeah, you see it because you see it as a movie, and you're just kind of watching these people. Like, yeah, I don't think I would be fooled into thinking that this person's in high school. But if it worked for him, man, and he got this masterful piece of cinematic history out of it, so be it, man. I mean, I'm glad he got away with it. I hope he didn't do anything too bad while he was in high school as an adult, but you know,
Some people look younger though. I mean, let's not forget 21 Jump Street, which is one of my favorite shows. Those guys were undercover narcs in high school.
right, and that's
They look like they were in
that,
high school.
and that's one of the things I was thinking of was 21 Jump Street, and it's like, you know, you feel like you would know that this person's not in high school because I don't know if it's just because you actually know they're not, but just seeing like whether you're talking about the movie where it was Johnny Depp and DeLuise or the movie, I'm sorry, that was the show or the movie where it was Channing Tatum, it's like, it's like they don't look like high school students anymore. It's like high school students don't look like what they did like in the 80s. In the 80s, they looked older. It's like you'll find videos online of people recording their friends in high school, and in the 80s, you had to have this giant thing over your shoulder to be able to record anything. It wasn't just pull out your pocket and you got this little camera and phone in your pocket, but like you watch these videos and you see what these people look like, and it's like, yeah, that kid's 16. He's got a full mustache,
Oh, yeah.
sideburns, and it's like you look at them now, it's like that guy looks like he's 30. But
Oh yeah.
in
I
the
mean,
80s, they looked that age. So I guess like in the 80s when Johnny Depp was doing it, it kind of made sense because high school students actually looked like that.
true. But I mean, it's here's another one. Never Been Kissed with
Right.
she goes on the cover too. Drew Barrymore
Very more,
back to the
yeah.
high school to
Mhm.
do a journalist piece. So you know that it's been referenced and done.
Yep.
Through pop culture and movies. But I just found that fascinating. I mean, what a cool concept to be able to do that. Because we all secretly, I think, want to like we never let go of our high school years. You know what I mean? Like,
I I mean, look, I remember like the whole rumor mill was true, where it was like, hey, I heard that stoner dude stabbed Mr. Hand. It's like, no, 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 I was there. He just called him a dick. You know, but like that's how things escalated in high school. It just kind of shows you where like the whole rumor mill comes from and how like things get blown out of proportion just because someone says one thing and then it escalates that whole the telephone.
look, I mean, people thrive off drama in high school, and some people never stop thriving off drama. You know, that's the time to do it. Is high school? Your adolescence.
Yeah, exactly. You do dumb things in high school, you do dumb things when you're a kid. And
Look what they did to the car. I mean, Spicoli and the dude there, his friend, his buddy, they jacked up his brother's car, and he's like, "My brother's gonna kill us twice." Well, which is he gonna kill us once or twice?
dude,
Uh, don't worry, my dad's a TV repairman. He can fix it. You know what I mean? Just
dude,
classic lines like that.
exactly. But like that whole scene was one of the most genius ways to cover up what they did. They just spray painted it with the rival team's name.
Lincoln.
Yeah, Lincoln all over the car, saying that they suck and all that stuff. Got
Hey, Spicoli was smart. He wasn't dumb.
exactly, exactly. And he, went beyond. Obviously, it wasn't like the book smarts, it was the street smarts. It's like, look, I might not be able to make it in this classroom, but if I got stuck out here, I know what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yeah,
exactly
he's a surfer dude. He's a street dude. I mean, he knows what's going on. You know what I mean? Like he's there. You know what I mean? And where someone is like Brad would just shit his pants, not knowing what to do, but could get an A in chemistry. You know what I mean? There's a difference.
yeah.
And I mean that's what's so powerful about this film is that it shows really it really depicts what high school life was like. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough, right? It like no other film.
Yeah.
And I don't think any other film could capture that magic of what it was like to be a teenager, and it's timeless. Kids could watch it today and still feel the same, like, oh shit, I went through that last week, or I know what that dude's going through, or I'm just like Ratner. I freeze up. I can't talk to a girl.
Oh, dude,
Like,
like I was like that in high school. I'm still like that. It's like I could talk to a woman. It's like, oh, can I have your Facebook? Can I have your? And it's like I have to
it's
like,
so relatable.
yeah,
And I mean, like you got guys like Damone who just they're just charmers. They
right.
they
They're
they put
charming.
it on and they know how to act. And you knew you had a friend like that in high school who you know you thought was your friend, but there was like slimy interior motives where he'd stab you in the back, but then he realized what a piece of shit he was and maybe apologize just like the movie, and you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, like that
That's high school.
exactly, and that's happened on like several occasions where it's like that you're not the only person that went through that because it was written into a character because that really happens where you're the shy guy and you like a girl, your friends know you like this girl, you didn't make the move when you had the chance, so they make the move and they get the girl. And that's how it happens. Dude, it happened a lot. I even had to explain this to a buddy of mine not too long ago where he was into a girl, his friend started talking with her. I told him, I was like, dude, you didn't make your move. You have to step in there and talk to her. That's how it's going to happen. If you don't work up the courage to ask a girl for her number, someone else is going to do it. And like I said, that was always me. I was always shy. And it's like, even now I get nervous to do it, but you know, you gotta you gotta think of Ratner, man. You'd be like, Ratner sucked it up, asked her for her number, what happened after, obviously, he was more of a gentleman. When he was alone with Stacy, he was being a gentleman. I think on top of being nervous, he also wanted to be respectful. But in turn, because, Stacy hangs out with Linda, and Linda's this like, girl who's got this, like you said, this older man another state, basically pen pals, and knows everything she needs to know about sex. She teaches Stacy everything she needs to know, shows her on a carrot what to do while other high school boys are watching and cheering them on.
And like you said, it really showed mall culture,
Yeah,
which you don't see anymore.
exactly.
You know, the essence of going to the mall, which was so important when you're in high school. You know, I miss those times where, that was your whole like that's where you felt alive and fun. You had the movie theaters usually in there, you had the arcade, you had everything. You had the food court, and that's where you picked your bones. That's where you met up with your friends and just had a blast. Pre social media, pre all of that stuff, where your friends were your entertainment. And that's what this film really captures. Uh, the mall and just so much you can do and how fun it was. But I mean, going back to Linda, Linda was the girl that wouldn't give you the time of day. I knew plenty of those in high school, wouldn't give you the time of day, hot as fuck, and just, you know, above everybody.
Yeah, and it's like I also feel like because Stacy was like the more sweet girl, you know, 15 years old, never had sex, wants to know what it's like, dupes, tells this 26-year-old guy that she's 19, and it's like just gets it over with at the baseball field, you know, and in like the dugout or whatever. And it's like you see that and you kind of feel bad because it's like here's this sweet little innocent girl who like yeah, she's looking for like love, but at the same time wants to know what that's like. And it's like it goes with that whole thing you were saying earlier about like somebody trying to fit in. So it's like she can have like that conversation with Linda, like, hey, I did it too. This is what it was like. And then she became like this person who was like, all right, now I got Ratner at my house. I'm going to seduce him. He turned me down. Oh, he must not like me. But then here comes Mike Damone, sweet, smooth talking guy, doesn't really care, will take his clothes off right in front of you. No, not a care in the world. Hey, let's go over to their house and jump in their pool. Doesn't need to call, doesn't need to ask, just knows that it's a suave move and just let's go do
This is some really good iced tea, Stacy.
it. Exactly. And it's like because Ratner didn't make the move when he wanted when she wanted him to. And to be honest, I don't think she really did want him to. I'm sure if he would have actually said, listen, I want to take it slow, I think she would understand, but she just thought it meant that he didn't like her. But I also think that her saying that he didn't like her had a lot to do with Linda's influence.
Well, I mean, girls think, I'm going to assume it's like they know guys have sex on their mind all the time. So they don't realize that some of these guys, they're scared too, or they're late bloomers or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like Ratner was not ready for that, obviously.
But there are
Scared shitless.
right, but and there are also guys who have that mentality. Like
Absolutely.
I want
I
to.
mean, Ratner is equivalent to I don't want to get in on another movie, but we will be doing this movie also too. But Ratner was like Gary from Last American Virgin,
Yeah, absolutely,
basically
100%, 100%.
similar character. Um, I found him to be when I was younger, I could relate, but watching it now, I find his character very annoying and very like you almost want to punch him in the face. Like, dude, get in the real world, get some balls. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
come
listen,
on.
man. See, like I differ from that opinion because like I said, I grew up like Ratner, and there is a part of me that is still like Ratner. I'm definitely no Mike Damone. I'm definitely not Mike Damone. I'm like probably like a cross between like Brad and Ratner, where it's like, I'm doing my best to be responsible, but I'm kind of a sweet guy. You know what I mean? And I get nervous around women sometimes. So it's
I mean, I could relate to it, but I'm really not like any of these characters. I never, but I was more, if I was to describe myself as anybody in high school, definitely Ferris Bueller, because that's how I survived high school. I was friends with every clique, and if somebody had a jam or a problem, they came to me a lot of times, and I got them out of that shit. I was a lot like Ferris Bueller, very much. Now, Ferris Bueller was not a suave, but he was comfortable in his own skin, and he was worldly beyond high school. Now we'll get into that film too. I don't
oh
want to
yeah,
jump up, but
I know.
that was his thing, and he was able to relate and mix himself into every possible social clique, and that's what I did. I was friends with the jocks. I was friends with the nerds, the calculator dudes. I was friends with the soccer kids. I was friends with the gearheads. I was friends with the metalheads. I was friends with the black kids. Any social group, the hip hop dudes. I could go in and talk about on any subject on every social group, and every social group seemed to like me.
Okay.
So that's how I got through high school. I very much like Ferris Bueller. I was not like Ratner or Damone. I was more like a Ferris Bueller
Yeah, I was
person.
probably more like Anthony Michael Hall in 16 Candles, where like I had a group of friends and there were people who didn't like me and they made sure I knew that. But hey, listen, man, it's all what helps shape you to become an adult, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Farmer Ted owned his. He was the king of the geeks.
Exactly.
That the thing
I
about
was
that character is he didn't realize that he was socially outcast.
right.
He was confident in his skin. I mean, the ball. He went up and stepped up right to Molly Ringwald,
Right.
right on the bus,
Right. And that's
like he Mister, the shit. And I mean, just the way it was written too. I mean, it's really is a brilliant film. It is it. I wouldn't even call it a. It is a teen film, but it's much more beyond that. It's just one of my favorites. It's I wouldn't change anything about that movie, to be honest with you. It's
yeah, I
just
mean
that good.
yeah, it's a very unique film for the time it came out for teenagers, you know, early 80s, and it was like they were already dealing with some like adult issues too. Cuz you know, we know about the whole situation between Stacy and Damone, and it's like, "Hey, listen, I'm pregnant." And like his first reaction is like, "You sure it's mine?" And it's like that's always like the reaction. It's like, "You sure it's mine?" It's like, "Yes." You got to get rid of it. It's like, "Yeah, I already have an appointment." I'm just like it's like, "All
He
right."
really was a slimy
He
dude.
was a
Damone
slime
was a
ball, but like I
slimy
was actually like
guy.
even when I first saw it, like I was very surprised at that reaction. I already have an appointment. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're 15. I get it. You don't want to raise a child, but to be that so like nonchalant about it, it's like you got to get rid of it. Yeah, yeah. You know, I already got it planned. I'm like, I was like kind of sickened by that. I was sickened by that. I'm like, damn.
And I mean, it's true. But it's true to life because she's scared to death. She's trying to hide it from her brother, who's Mister Responsible, right? Mister has it all together. So he wants, it seems, but we know his issues as well. But he's puts on that front like he's got it all together. I'm Mister Brad. I'm together. I have a job. I'm responsible. I have a serious girlfriend. And shit hits the fan for this guy too, this character. Um, but she's scared to tell him naturally, and he finds out obviously, and does a solid. He helps her out because that's his sister. He loves her. He picks her up and everything. He's like, I won't tell mom. And he's there for her. He's the big brother. And she learned a lesson. She learned a very hard lesson. The smooth, suave guys. Sometimes that's not where it's at. You know what I mean? And it's a hard lesson for that.
But she also learned a good lesson that she can look up to her big brother because he's there to help her out. You know, it gives you that whole element of family where no matter what you do, your family's got your back. And I always respected Brad's character for that because it's like he didn't ask her any questions. He didn't say who is it. Didn't you know?
He didn't
Which
judge
if she,
her.
right? If she did tell him, you know that he would have sought revenge. You know that it's like, look, there was a madman hiding inside of Brad the whole movie, and we got to see it at the end. You know, I mean, dude, he lost his job for losing it on that one customer. It was like, yo, you promised me the best breakfast in the country. Give me the best. And it was like, it was bad. He's like, you ate the whole thing. Gets fired just because, like, This guy was busting his chops, and it's like it finally all got to him at the end where he's like, dude, not today, man, not today.
But you know what? He becomes the hero. He's the hero of the film in the gas station. You know what I mean? And that was purposely done like that. It's like, it comes full circle. His girlfriend breaks up with him. He's feeling like shit, low, like a loser. He gets fired from his job, and that's his story. And then he gets another shit job just to make it through till he goes to college. And scumbag comes in, tries to rob it, covers the camera. I've been watching this place, it's like, I just started. Can you give me just, you know what I mean? Like, freaks out, and you could see that moment. You could relate to it where like that frustration is building up of all the stuff that's previously happened to him, right? And like he explodes. In smart movie, throws the coffee on him. I mean, Spicoli helped out too, unwillingly knowing that he helped out. But it's a great ending,
It is, man.
perfect ending.
Yeah,
Um,
dude, it really was a fantastic ending. Another thing that's very iconic about that movie is that scene. It's like the breaking point for Brad. It's like that's another thing that we can all relate to. It's like, look, I never threw hot coffee at anybody, but it's like, when you've reached your breaking point. Like I never really get physical. It's like I'm pretty mild mannered these days. You know what I mean? The older I get, the more I let stuff slide. But it's like you really got to push to get me to scream now. But like it's like if somebody's pushing so hard to the point where like you just explode, like everybody gets that. Everybody understands where Brad was coming from with that. And of course, saved his own life, saved Spicoli, saved everybody in that store by doing what he did. And it just gives you this whole other outlook on who Brad is as a responsible adult. It's like, dude, I've been through all this. I'm not taking it anymore. Here, take this
it
car.
gave him his mojo back.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's what he needed.
Yep.
He made him feel like, I'm the man. You know what I'm saying? Like he was down at that point.
Yeah.
When telling his story, like that interval of the girlfriend breaking up, losing his job, that was his whole center point of his story. And he goes from feeling like a loser to that happening at the end where he ends up becoming, the man.
Yeah, and you kind of see it. You kind of see the build up to it when he was getting out of work at the Pirate Palace or something like that, where where his boss is like, all right, you have to make this delivery. He's like, all right, I'll take it on the way home, whatever. He's like, where's your uniform? He's like, look, I'm on my way out. I'm going home, and it's like, no, you got to wear your uniform to deliver this. And you see him start to break at that point when he's on his way driving to do this delivery, and he gets laughed at by this gorgeous woman in the car next to him. He's like, oh, she's smiling at me, she's laughing at him, and he realizes when he sees himself in the mirror, it's like, I'm wearing this stupid pirate outfit. Takes the whole outfit off while he's driving, tosses the hat, tosses it all out. He's like, screw this, I'm done, I'm not doing this anymore.
No,
And
it's perfect.
yeah,
I mean, he didn't know he had the hat on. It's just great. That's what I mean by great writing.
exactly, man.
Relatable.
And
Uh,
it's like if you didn't love Brad until that point, you definitely loved him from that point on.
yeah, I mean, I liked Brad. I mean, he's forever going to be known as the, the hormonal maniac whacking off in the bathroom over,
Yeah.
Linda over Phoebe Cates.
Gates, yeah.
In the classic, perfect little perky titty scene. You know what I mean? That's just been rewound several times throughout American boys.
And you know what it is, Phoebe Cates, like top on or off, she was always a beautiful woman. Like like even as a little kid, I'm like,
Kidding me?
yeah, even when I was a little kid watching Gremlins, I'm like, oh, she's pretty. So she always,
Same, even Jennifer Jason Lee, both of them
yeah,
just
yeah.
knockouts. But I mean, let's tackle more on Damone because I think that's a funny character. I mean, I knew guys like this, you know, still know guys like this. Just hey, I got 2 tickets to, Van Halen. I could give you a good deal on them. I mean, like scalping.
What I say?
Where do you get these tickets from? He must have knew
Oh,
people, Damone, even in high school, knew some shady characters to be able to get these concert tickets and sell them at the mall. Little kids run up to him like, "What do you want?"
but that's the
Van
thing.
Halen.
But that's the thing, though. Back then, it was different. It was different too to get tickets. You just had to stand in line. You had to get to a store, get on a line, and wait to buy your tickets. It's like now, if it's sold out online, you're not getting those tickets. You got to buy it from a scalper. Damone very well could have stood online for those Van Halen tickets and bought a ton of them.
Damone was a businessman. He was a little wiser than high school. He was looking to make money and shady wise, but like, and he was the guy who always had that advice too, like, the classic scene where it's like, if the conversation slows down, put on Led Zeppelin 4 side 2.
Yep. Uh,
Like, what is the significance of,
exactly.
like,
But it's like,
just good writing.
yeah, exactly. And it's like when you had a friend like that, it's like you would take that advice. It's like, okay, I got to try that then because, it's like if you're looking to go on a date with a girl, do whatever, and it's like that your buddy is experienced, whether, it's just dating or something else, you want to go a little further. It's like that's the guy who's going to give you the answer. You ask
Let's not forget,
Simone.
Damone was cool style wise. He was the new wave punk rocker guy. Remember the posters in the room, Devo, Ramones, Devo. He was into music. So he was the music guy. Um, which I always thought was cool. I could relate because I loved those bands when I was a kid, Devo and all that on MTV. So I was like, oh, I could relate to Damone because Damone's into some cool music like I was.
And it was funny because like when the kids asked him like how much for Van Halen, he's like $40 a piece. He's like, come on, they were $12. He's like, you do you want to see Van Halen or not? And they're like thinking about it. They come back, they're like, all right, we'll take him. He's like, what did I say, 45? 40. All right, here you go. But then it's like later on when he's trying to get the money to help Stacy, take care of their issue, he he's calling people up for money. It's like, what happened to all that money that you got from those Van Halen tickets? Like that would have been half of what you had to pay right there for those 2 tickets.
Yeah,
Like,
just slimy, shady dude. But what are you gonna do? I mean,
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, man. It's like you could have known like you could have known like 3 different Mike Damones for each part of his personality. You
but here's the thing, though. Damone got redemption. He redeemed himself.
gotcha.
He saw what he was really like when he fucked Ratner over, and he felt bad about it because Ratner was his friend,
Yeah,
regardless of what I mean. They were friends,
I know, and that's
you
that's
know,
that's one of
and he
the
felt bad about it.
and that's one of the interesting things about that relationship. It's like you got this cool guy like Mike Damone, this you know little quiet nerdy guy, and they're best friends, but they're each other's only friends. It's like as cool as
Right, that was his best friend. Yeah.
and it's like, somebody like Mike Damone figures out like, hey, like why am I pushing this little guy around? This guy was ready to kill me in the locker room. Like this guy was gonna beat the hell out of me. And it's like it's a side of Ratner that he had never seen before. So it's like because he's been his friend for so long and because he basically, stepped over him his their whole friendship is when he realizes like, yo, this is my only friend. This is really my only friend. Everybody who talks to me wants something from me. This is the only guy who actually sits here and talks with me, hangs out with me, and I screwed him over.
Well,
And
it's
like,
the
if he
classic.
walks
It's the
away,
case.
yeah, if he walks away, I got nothing.
Right. It's a classic case of, like, I could equate it to, um in The Outsiders, Dally and Johnny Boy. The reason why Dally loved Johnny Boy so much is because Johnny Boy looked up to Dally. Similar situation. But really, Dally loved Johnny Boy. Wish he could really deep down be like Johnny Boy, a stand up guy. He saved the kids in the fire. Said, I could never do that. You know what I mean? That's why he was ripped up when Johnny Boy, Ralph Macchio's character, died. It's a similar situation as he cared about Ratner. He got over on him, but he cared about him. He was his friend,
Right.
and he felt that. You could really see that in the writing in the movie that he felt it was genuine, and he really felt bad about it and said, come on, and they shook hands and made up, which I think is fantastic at the end. And I think Damone from then on probably changed his ways.
Yeah.
It was a self-realization.
Wasn't
Because
it?
I mean, Ratner was in the right. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a shitty thing to do to a
I mean,
friend.
well, that's the thing though. It's like he was in the right because it's like, dude, and he even said he's like the one girl that like I was actually into. That's the like of all the girls that you can get together with, that you could do whatever you want with, you picked the one girl that I was into. I mean, that's not to say that Stacy didn't, egg him on. It's like, you know, he really likes you, and it's like, well, I like you. You know what I mean? A guy like Damone isn't just going to let that walk away. It's like, oh, all right, yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
it's an
give it.
opportunity. You're young, your sex, your hormones are raging. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
he was young and dumb.
Right.
And he felt bad about it afterwards, at least. There's some guys I know that wouldn't even care about that. Just really just dirtbags. But the fact that he felt bad and redeemed himself is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, he he did end up getting busted for selling Ozzy tickets and ended up working at 7-Eleven, but you know,
But I just think back to that line. It's very sentiment. Like he says, Ratner in the lock. He's like, people come up to me and they say, "Why do you hang out with Damone? He's a jerk." And I always stick up for you. I always said, "Yo, you just don't know Damone." But you know what? I'm starting to think maybe they really do know Damone. And it's
yeah,
just,
and that was a very important line because it's like as his best friend, he saw something in Damone that other people didn't see. And now he's starting to see what everybody else sees because he just did to him what he's so used to seeing Damone do to other people. And it just, because seeing that in a friend that you love, seeing that in a friend that you like and you spend a lot of time with, that you basically tell him everything about you, knows everything about you, knows everything that you do, knows who you're into, and kind of destroys that trust by like stepping over the boundaries and going for the girl that you like. It's like that crushes you. It's like, yo, it's like it's me. Every moment that I spent with this dude, and he could still do this to me, of all people, his best friend. It's like, you know what? Maybe it's like you said, maybe those people are right. Maybe they're right. Maybe you are a scumbag.
but I mean, that's the brilliance of Fast Times at Ridgemont High is that it really, in a genuine, not in a written like everything's fixed within 5 minutes and everything's hunky dory, way, in a genuine, heartfelt way, it dealt with those issues, unlike any other teen film. The John Hughes films couldn't touch it. Um, I mean, Say Anything was probably the most equivalent, but it focused on one guy, Lloyd Dobler, one character. Its similarities in the genuineness of it, but um, there's I mean, the Hughes films dealt with teen angst, where everything was just fitting in. That was the films. Though, if we could break down a John Hughes, uh, I don't know what the main movies were. That's basically what they were about. Universal, all of them, is just trying to fit in. And Fast Times went above that. It just went, and it's pre Hughes, so Hughes got influenced from Fast Times. Um, is Finally they fit in and everything's, they find themselves in movie over with Hughes, right? Fast Times, it dealt with what was going on with the American teen in high school to the T through these central characters, what a teenager goes through. And that's why it is such a significant film, right? Is that it's relatable and it's different. It wasn't just raunchy trying to get laid like a lot of those films were. Comedies, really suspend disbelief in a lot of them. Goofy, you know, just going back like the Sure Thing, where there's just like this magical girl that like can set all your problems, and this guy goes on this to meet her. Some, just like silly storylines. Um, One Crazy Summer trying to save the bar or whatever. You know what I mean? Like just, but Fast Times, it got in the dirt. It got into the dirt under the nails, and really like, we're gonna deal with social anxiety. We're gonna deal with betrayal. We're gonna deal with responsibility. We're gonna deal with drugs somewhat. Smoking. We're gonna deal with pregnancy, teen pregnancy. We're gonna deal with all these things, but we're gonna put it in a teen film and show it to the American audience. And it resonates. It doesn't lose its importance because it all of the relatabilities there. You look at a film like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which I love, but it's come on, it's not reality. It's a lot of fantasy to
Oh
that
yeah,
movie.
that's what really made, like as I said, Fast Times at Ridgemont High a very unique film because it really got to the heart of what a teenager went through in high school. You know, it was so many different things, so many different people going through their own lives. You know, it's like, one's got a boyfriend far away. He breaks up with her. She's crying. One's trying to fit in by, you know, having sex with an adult man. And now she wants to do it with this guy and that guy. One guy just trying to work up the courage to ask a girl for his phone number, for her phone number. One guy, like you said, the scumbag selling tickets. One guy who's like the class clown, the stoner. And it worked so well on so many levels because it gave you the opportunity to love and hate so many different characters. You got basically all these main characters. There's not one person who takes a back seat to the other because you learn enough about each character, like I said, either fall in love with them or fall in hate with them. And I think
Yeah,
that
it's a glimpse into the lives of these six characters, and that's why it's such a brilliant film and so unique. Is that no other film really is like that? It gives you a glimpse into the life what these six characters are going through within the span of a movie, and each has their own story. And I mean, I can't emphasize this enough. They each have their own story, which we just broke down basically all of them. We didn't really get to Spicoli too much, but there really wasn't a lot of substance in his. He was you know what he was the what they call the like funny ringer. Like he was the one to balance it out because a lot of heavy shit was going on with all the other five characters, and then you have this guy that really just wants to smoke weed and surf the waves, with California babes, and just add some comic relief and just a lovable character.
yeah, and he had some really good interactions. First of all, with Mr. Hand, with the teacher, you know, just pissing him off every second he gets a chance. But he also had a lot of good moments with Brad. At the beginning when him and the other two stoners, was it Anthony Edwards and you know who I'm talking about? They Eric
I
Stoltz.
think it's Eric Stoltz. Yeah,
Yeah. When they come into the burger joint and just take their shirts off. It's like, the sign says no shirts, no shoes, no dice. He's like, what are you talking? He's like, dude, you came in here with shirts on. He's like, oh, we must have lost them, man. Like just busting his chops. But like there was like that, sort of a mutual respect between the two of them. It's like they knew they could bust each other's balls, and it's like they weren't gonna like fight each other on it.
but I got to do this. I got this scene. Let me see if I could do it right. Hey, I know you, dude. Uh, Spicoli, why don't you get a job? For what? Because you need money. All I need is a buzz and some cool waves, and I'm fine.
Yeah. Some
Just
tasty
great.
waves. It's hard to watch that movie and just not love it. But there are those moments that do give you like a bit of an uneasy feeling because it's like obviously Jennifer Jason Leigh wasn't really 15, but the fact that she's supposed to be 15, doing it with a kid who's 26, it just kind of, it's just like, oh my god, that's
Yeah, it was a heavy part of the movie that was uncomfortable, like really slimy. Like this dude just wants to get laid and uses this girl, and yeah, it's a little. You got to take maybe a small shower after,
yes, yes,
kind of
exactly.
kind of But I know I get you 100%. But it was needed in the film. I mean, that was her story,
I know, I know.
because she was the naive one that wanted to know about sex and thought she could impress Linda and be sophisticated. And she really, it's like eyes wide shut. She really didn't know,
Yeah.
and she thought she did. But I mean, talk about the soundtrack too. I love that. Gotta was it Jackson Brown? Gotta be somebody's babe.
Yes, yes.
Oh God, what
Great
a perfect.
song, and it was very well placed too. Of course, Zeppelin was playing on the radio, in the car.
Cashmere. Yeah, what is it? Ramble On was in there, and like Cashmere.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it had, and I think even Van Halen
I
was
think
on there too.
American Girl was in there too. I know
What's
that was
that?
I think American Girl also. I know there was some
Yeah,
in there.
Tom Petty. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, great soundtrack.
Oh yeah, dude.
Even Oingo Boingo at the end,
Yeah. And it's like I got to look up to see if I can find that on vinyl somewhere because it really is a good soundtrack.
great soundtrack.
Yeah.
But it's a great tune. It's perfect for the ending credits. Um, but I mean, just to think that this guy took it upon himself to go into a high school. Uh, and I mean, at the time, he couldn't have been over. I mean, he was probably just like maybe 19, 20. Probably just graduated high school himself when he did this, a young Cameron Crowe. This is before almost famous, before any of his other movies. But he did that as a journalist and just met these kids, befriended them, and got their story, and then wrote a book about it. It was a book, and then it got turned into a movie. Uh, I never read the book, but I'm sure it's fantastic. But yeah, it just captured the lives of teenagers in high school. Simple, you would think if you described it to somebody, oh, just another dumb teenager.
Just another teen movie.
Yeah, but you get surprised. Yeah, it's just like, wow, and this is 1982.
Well, yeah.
I mean, look at the films it's influenced beyond that.
Uh,
All the films we mentioned, like Never Been Kissed, influenced that movie.
oh, dude,
Uh, all the Hughes films, like most of the Cusack teen movies,
definitely.
influenced all those
Yeah,
movies.
definitely Last American Virgin because there is a similarity in the storyline to that. Just
Yeah.
feel like as I'm watching it, I know I said that American Virgin, Last American Virgin, is like a darker version of Fast Times, but after watching Fast Times, I'm like, there's some dark stuff in here, man. There's some stuff that you just kind like you said, you need that little shower afterwards. Like you need to like douse yourself in like at least stand in the cold shower for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Damone was a despicable character. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he was, like cool music and stuff, but he was just not a good dude at that point. Just,
He felt like he figured out life. He felt like he had the key to life, and he thought
well,
that.
it's insecurity. He had to get over on people. That's how he maneuvered. Like I'm not gonna let this person get me. I'm gonna fuck them over before they could fuck me over. It's insecurity and fear of rejection. So he puts on the overconfidence.
And you find out it was all an act. In and out, done. And she lied and said it was like 15, 20 minutes, something like that, and it was like, yeah, more like 15, 20 seconds. It's like you done? Yeah.
And it's like he's always got to look better than
Yeah.
his buddy.
Yeah,
That type of archetype.
absolutely, 100%, man.
But I don't know anybody that doesn't like this film. Like it,
Yeah, I
like I know people that like John Hughes films over other John Hughes films, and some people that don't even like some of the John Hughes films. I've never heard anyone say, "I yeah, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a shitty movie. I don't like it." Here's another difference. It captures working class, which I always love because you don't get that in the Hughes films. The Hughes films, you get the upshalant, you get the Steffs and the Blairs, that are rich, and then you get the wrong side, the other side of the tracks, the poor versus the rich. In Fast Times, they were all working class kids struggling in high school, in a public high school in
yeah,
California.
and that's the thing. I always love it when you show that aspect of human life, because I grew up in a working class family, and it's like whenever you see something that depicts something that's more realistic than everybody's rich, everybody has this kind of money, and they all go to this school, what have you, and it gives you a little bit of like what real life is to you. You just kind of relate to it more, and you appreciate it more. It's like you didn't really get that a lot in TV, and as you said, you don't really get that a lot in those type of John Hughes movies and stuff, but you got that from Fast Times because like you said, you can relate to these people because this is the type of life that you were living. The mall was entertainment. That was the place you hung out.
You hit it right on the nail. That's the life you were living. Hughes was like Beverly Hills 90210 kind of. You didn't live that life, but you wanted to glimpse into it. Like as far as the Steph characters like James Spader and the Blair, I wasn't certainly I knew people that had the Gap clothes, the Guess clothes, all that kind of blazers and stuff like that. But when I was in high school, nobody dressed like that. You know what I mean? It was a to make a point of snobby rich kids that are throwing the parties versus the underdog awkward person that's trying to reach that level. But they realize that those people are shitty. I don't want to be on that level. Then you had the endearing character like Ducky, who didn't give a fuck about those people. He despised those people. You know what I mean?
And
And
and that was another thing too, because like you thought when you watch those movies, you thought that that happened a lot more than it did. Like you thought that it was like every high school was like rich versus poor. Like everybody who had money in their pocket was like pointing and laughing at the kids who didn't. Never saw anything like that in real high school. The stuff in Fast Times, yeah, that shit happened.
yeah. Well, I mean, when I graduated, I was probably the last of my generation that maybe a year after two that had that John Hughes aesthetic, whereas you walked into a cafeteria and it really was divided. I didn't sit with the jocks because I wasn't a jock. You had the jocks all sat together. You had the metalheads all sat together. It was division. That the rich, mean girl, the preppy girls, they all sat together. The pocket calculator kids, the chess club, they all sat together. That was unified like that amongst their groups, but not all together. Now in American high school, it's all scrambled, but you still had that aesthetic. You still had that division. I mean, I could relate to all the different groups because, like I said, I was like furious, but I knew a lot about a lot of subjects. Even in high school, I could talk to fucking dudes about cars. I could talk. I liked hip hop back then too, the old school, and I also liked metal music. So I could go up to any group, and they all knew me. What's up? Like I could chit chat with them. Um, but it still had that aesthetic. Whereas now, no, it's the quarterback is listening to Nirvana still. You know what I mean? It just all became mainstream. There was no like counterculture or us against them in an American high school now because it just got all intermingled. Everything became mainstream. But back when I graduated high school, which is like 40 years ago, whatever, you still had that aesthetic in the early 90s, early 90s. It was coming off. You still had that kind of Fast Times, John Hughes aesthetic, whereas now, no, absolutely not.
Right. See, in like the mid '90s when I was in high school, it was different. There were cliques, of course. There were people like I was more with like the kids who like the kids who were listening to punk and metal and just any kind of like heavy, hard, rebellious
Metalheads.
music. Yeah. So yeah, but it was like, and there were other kids who hung out with each other, like the pretty girls and like the pretty boys and all that stuff. But it was like there was never like fights between us. It's not like, ah, well, you're fat and ugly. Ah, well, you're skinny and underfed. It was just if we caught each other's attention on something, we would talk about something. It wasn't like, oh, why did you say that to me? Why are you even looking at me? It was a little different. I mean, there were the clicks, but we didn't, it wasn't like you couldn't talk to the other clicks. It's not like somebody would shun you for like even coming near them. It's like if you said something funny, the pretty girl would laugh. It didn't matter what you looked like. If something's funny, she's gonna laugh. That's just how it was for me in high
No,
school.
I mean in mine too. I mean we weren't like fuck you, you're not a
Right. It
jock.
wasn't.
You can't
Yeah,
talk to me. It's just that it was comfort. Like you
exactly.
related to who you were, who your friends were.
Right.
So like but I see a metalhead chit chatting with a fucking jock guy
Yeah.
occasionally. I mean, it was no like segregation like that. It was just like you felt comfortable. I mean, you could definitely go in and see what clique where you belonged.
Of
You
course.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's just by human condition and comfort. But that's more so in the Hughes films, not so much in Fast Times, and that's why it's so unique. Is that you didn't really get that. It's centered so much on these six characters
Mhm.
that the outer high school is basically just backflare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It had such a focal centered storyline for each one of these six characters that you really centered in on what they were going through and how they were going to maneuver and get out of this situation. Absolutely. Whereas, like I said, in earlier in the Hughes films, you were just focused on one person that's going through teen angst that's trying to fit in to the popular crowd. It's just so different. It's influential. I mean, I don't think you could make a film like this today. It's
Right.
impossible,
No, definitely not.
and that's what makes it so
Yeah,
endearing and love be loved is because you can't make a film like this now. It's like you can't remake Breakfast Club because the fucking five kids would be on their phones, not giving a shit what the other person was doing and taking selfies or filming YouTube video just totally centered into themselves. They wouldn't bear what they were going through.
exactly.
You
And
couldn't make it.
they would
So it's the same aspect.
yeah, the students wouldn't take the principal seriously. The Spicoli of the new Fast Times would just probably
Wouldn't show up. Yeah,
knock
not even.
out Mr. Hand. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
like you said, it's a different world, and it's like if they ever tried to like remake one of these movies, it just
possible. You can't.
it's like, oh well, we need one for the new generation. We need, the next generation needs their version of this movie. It's like, no, they don't. Just play them the
That's why they never probably tried to remake it. It's just impossible.
yeah, but I mean, it's like they do that. I mean, listen, I know this is something completely different, but it's like when you take a movie that's as iconic as Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and you say that it needs to be remade for this generation. It's like, no, just play them that movie. They don't need to understand what the 80s was like to enjoy the movie.
Timeless.
You sit there and you watch it with them and they ask you, hey, was it really like that? Yeah, it was really like that. Yeah, there was a guy, I knew a guy just like Mike Damone. I knew a guy just like Brad. I knew a guy like Spicoli. I was more like Ratner. I knew a girl like that. I knew, you know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
it's just this generation needs to understand good cinema. You don't need to take everything and remake it for them. Just give the because, dude, we watch movies that were from before our time. How do
Absolutely.
we know about these movies? Because somebody played it for us. Someone told us it was good. This movie's a classic. Go out and watch it. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is a classic. Watch it, enjoy it, love it, appreciate it,
Yeah, I
understand.
mean the fad, the talking that may be different, the clo but the messaging, what they're going through is timeless. It's the same as a kid now can relate to it, and that's why they can watch this movie.
Right, and
They'll cap on like malls. Nobody goes to malls anymore. It's kind of outdated in that sense, but it was the 80s. That was what was
right,
the thing to do. But the messages, absolutely. I mean, Pete's are still going through all this stuff today. I mean, that'll never end.
yeah,
Like you could show this to kids nowadays, but and they probably would get it. Um, but yeah, you can't like they think about this. They tried to in the 90s, right? Do these teen films. Some of them were good, but they didn't hit that mark the same way. All of them were good looking. Even the nerdy, they tried to make the nerdy ones look awkward. Like perfect example, which I met her, sweetheart girl, Rachel Lee Cook from She's All That. They tried to make her look nerdy. She was hot as fuck. She didn't have that Molly Ringwald genuine weird. Molly Ringwald's not ugly, but she's a weird kind of cuteness like Winona Ryder. It's the same thing.
okay.
You can't find that in the 90s.
I mean, listen, I'll tell you, man. My one of my absolute favorite teen movies from the '90s was Can't Hardly Wait. That totally could have been a John Hughes flick. To me, that was a great movie, but coming from the '80s, coming from John Hughes, coming from Fast Times, you know where this all came from. It wasn't just like, hey, I got a great
Yeah,
idea for a movie.
it has a Hughes aesthetic 100%. That's what it was influenced by. 100.
Exactly. It's like, hey, you remember that movie from the '80s? How about if we do that with this? Like take this, because it's not all it wasn't all new. It was just the way it was presented. And
It
it's
was modernized,
yeah,
modernized to what was popular in the 90s.
exactly.
That's all they did.
And
Uh,
that's why you don't get those kind of movies now because like you said, everybody's on their phone, everybody's, doing like video game online video games.
there's no counterculture.
Exactly.
There's no, I mean, but like you think a movie like, those movies like She's All That and stuff in American Pie, they just didn't hit the same point. And what's that other one with the Melissa Joan Hart? That was kind of close to, and the
Oh,
other guy, Adrian Grenier.
drive me
Remember that one?
drive me crazy.
Drive Me
I
Crazy.
like
Yeah.
that one, man.
I do too. I'm telling you, it's my guilty pleasure. I like these movies,
Right.
but they're not the same.
But what was it? It was Can't Buy Me Love. in a sense, where she started like acting like they were together. He started getting popular with her friends. You know, that's where the idea comes from. It all depends on how you present it. You know, you could take a movie idea and recreate it. If it's good, it's good. You know, like I said, Drive Me Crazy is essentially Can't Buy Me Love, but it was still a good flick. You know,
Or even like Some Kind of Wonderful too,
Some Kind of Wonderful.
with
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah,
similar too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But what my point is that the characters are just like you have to suspend disbelief. Like Adrian Grenier, the guy. I mean, not. I'm not gay. You know what I mean? But every girl's gonna fall over. He's not gonna be the awkward rocker dude that like the pretty girls don't like. He's like it's not realistic
I get what you're saying. It's
by his looks.
right.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
Yeah,
He could walk into an American high school and every girl's gonna fall over him, no matter what social status.
exactly. But it's like when you watch a movie like 16 Candles, you see Anthony Michael Hall walk in with freckles, red hair, and braces.
Right. They look the part. Yeah.
It's like there was a point where you pick the person that was perfect for the job.
That time is no longer. They can't even make look. They they can't even make a teen film now in the 2000s and the
People
millennium.
wouldn't get
Like, what is it going to be? Four friends that are right in front of each other, just face plastered into the phone, and that's the whole movie. Nostalgia is our era. You say it's a thing that we thrived. We wanted to know what it was like to be in high school in like '84. Because remember, we were kids. I was a little kid when Fast Times came out. I wasn't in high school. I'm not that old. Came out in 1982. I was 7 years. I was a little kid.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Watching it and like being fascinated by it. And then, years later I watched it stuff, right? But like I wasn't in high school at that time when it came out. I'd be in my 60s now. I mean, like we haven't even touched on Mr. Hand. We kind of went off, but what a great nemesis, right? Endearing, not a villain, but kind of represented the, counterculture, rebellion, authority figure who they're kind of like the thing I love about it is when you look at it, they kind of like each other. Like at the end when he comes over to how and like Spicoli's like, "Whoa, Mr. Hand, what are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, Mr. Spicoli, you're going to be spending the summer with me." And he open your textbook to, you know what I mean, like, and
Stop from going to
teaches him.
dance.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Mhm.
So they were kind of, I don't know, admired each other still deep
Yeah.
down.
Well, and I think
Looked at him like a son type, you
I
know.
I think at the end they reached a point of mutual respect. You know, because Mr. Hand ended up seeing something in Spicoli that he didn't think that was there. You know, he thought that this guy was just a screw up, just the class clown, the guy always causing problems, and that's all he was ever going to be. But he kind of proved him wrong during that whole scene. Mr. Hand was going to be there the whole night, and he changed his mind after a little while, just sitting there talking with him, getting to know him, and it just turned out for the best. And they just, again, walked away with a mutual respect, where he just said, you know what, go enjoy the dance, have a good time, shook hands, and it was like it's the kind of thing that you like to see because it's like the whole movie, Mr. Hand was just giving it to him, but Spicoli was giving it back to him with everything that he did to just like interrupt his class, you know. Dude, I still laugh because it's so funny. He orders a pizza and
Ordered the double cheese.
yep, ordered the double cheese, brings it in, and Mr. Hand just gives the pizza out to like the whole class. It's like, oh, how about you? Would you want a slice? You know?
Well, yeah, since Mr. Spicoli took it upon himself to get a pizza, come on up, Brad. Everybody come on up and enjoy. Or Hamilton,
Yep,
come on up and enjoy.
yep.
Take a slink. And he's looking
Just-
at it like, oh,
Dude, the look on his face while they're eating his pizza, man. Like,
and then there's, the scene with, I think where the principal's office is. You dick.
hey, I heard
But
that.
I think that Mr. Hand looked at Spicoli as kind of a fuck up son
Yeah,
that, he cared enough about to try to change him and educate him somewhat. You know what I mean?
and that was the best way for them to really just wrap up what it was between Spicoli and Mr. Hand was is with that handshake. You know, it
You
was
know it was coming because Brad goes to Stacy, "Who do you got for English?" And she goes, "Mr. Hand." He goes, "Oh, Mr. Hand."
yeah, exactly. And again, another actor who was perfectly cast for the job. You know, he was just really, really good at it.
I think he passed on now.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah.
a while ago, long time ago. My favorite Martian, yeah, he's gone. Unfortunately, you know, rest in
Well, he's perfect for that role. Mr. He nailed it. I mean, everybody was perfect casting. I mean, couldn't have been casting was phenomenal.
exactly. And that's what I feel like separates a lot of the movies from that time to the movies today because you can have a good movie, but if you have crappy casting, you know, and you don't care about any of the main characters because of their bad acting and they just don't fit the part right, you're not going to care about the movie. That's one of the things that's one of the reasons I walk out of a lot of movies. You know, when the movie's over, a lot of newer movies, I just walk out and I'm like, that movie sucked. And mostly because I didn't like anybody in that movie. Not
Well, that's the number one thing we learn. You learn in film studies is one of the criterias of film review is that a lot of filmmakers it has to be likable character. I mean, there has to be character backdrop and likable character, or else you're not going to care. And that's the problem with a lot of horror movies today is that the this the protagonists, the main characters that you're supposed to care about are annoying as fuck, and you end up wanting to see them die. You end up siding with the killer, and that's whereas different in the '80s.
yeah, it was different in the 80s because like in the 80s when you're watching a slasher movie, it's like you like the main villain, you know, you like Jason, you like Freddy, you like Michael, you like but you also at the same time while you're watching it, you want them to lose. You want the final girl to prevail. You know, it's like you love watching Jason on the screen with his machete, with his mask and all that stuff. He becomes like sort of a hero in the culture, but he's not the hero of the movie. You know, you don't watch the movie just to watch Jason kill everybody. You want to see the good guy prevail. And in pretty much any Friday the 13th movie that you watch, you're happy with the outcome when whoever wins, wins.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean that's the thing with Fast Times. Going back to you cared about these characters, and that's what pushes the film. Is that's the main is if you didn't care about them, you wouldn't give a shit. You wouldn't watch the movie of it. I mean, you cared about it. And that same thing with the Hughes films. You cared about the character. You wanted to see what happened to them and how they make out, and it takes you on a ride, a journey, and it tells a story about each one of them.
Right. And even the thing is too, is like even if it's a character that you don't like, you like them enough to not like them. You know what I mean? It's like it's not the same kind of dislike for like you're not gonna have the same kind of dislike for Mike Damone that you are gonna have for somebody in a movie that comes out now. It's like, oh, Damone, I couldn't stand him. He was terrible. He was a dick. He was, you know, but it's like you love the character. You know what I mean? You love the actor who played the character because he played him so well. It's like, you know, what's the term? You love to hate him, you know, because he did a good job as, you know, the actor did a good job of portraying a character that you're supposed to not like. So therefore, you like that he was
Did
able
his
to do
job
that.
right.
Yeah,
And the worst thing is apathy. That you're doing something wrong if there's apathy. Like when I got into this bit, like people say, if you don't have haters, you're doing stuff wrong.
right.
You know what I mean? You're not affecting people in a visceral kind of way. You're if somebody the worst thing is just careless. They could care less. You know what I mean? That's where it's bad. You could start to worry. It's apathy. People are apathetic. So if they're disliking something, at least they're caring enough to dislike it, like you said. So yeah, absolutely. The worst thing is just not giving a shit. Like but
You're not walking away from like seeing Mike Damone on screen thinking like, oh, kill this guy already.
he was funny. I mean, his whole character was hilarious. I mean, slimy, but it was you knew people like this. You know what I mean? Like
Very important to the
just
story,
put overs. Yeah,
you know?
you know. And he had a cool. Like I said, I liked his style, the way he dressed. He was like a punk new wave type of dude. He just liked the same kind of music I liked as a kid. and that way I could relate to him. I mean, I wouldn't do the shit that he was doing in the film, but he's not. He's a likable villain. You know, that's the term, likable villain. I liked him more than. I mean, I'm telling you, Ratner just. Oh God.
I
Same thing like we're watching like with Gary in I mean, in Last American Virgin. You just want to yell at the screen, like,
Well,
get
dude,
over
I mean, you want to yell at them because you know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And it's like we're at this point in our lives where we've seen stuff like that really happen. But at the time when you first see it, you feel bad for him because it's like, oh man, how did he lose? Like he was such a good guy, he was such a sweetheart.
Ice Guys finish last. It's telling a lesson. It's portrayed in movies,
Yeah, oh,
Giuseppe. I mean, it's an
absolutely.
old timeless tale.
Dude, I
It's
mean,
it's true to it's portrayed in movies over and over again. The last, the nice guy gets the kick in the nuts, dude. It's true to life.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
dude, it's
Nice guys finish last. I mean, because they're considered weak. So, in closing, what are your final thoughts on Fast Times at
I absolutely, obviously, I absolutely love this movie. I mean, I might not have been one of the cool kids. Like I said, I related more with somebody like Ratner, but like it really brought back a lot of what that felt like as a teen trying to, you know, talk to a girl, get her number and all that stuff. Never always work, it didn't always work out. Most of the time it didn't. It never did. But having the type of friend like Mike Damone, knowing the cute girl, knowing the hot girl who like you had no you had no chance with. It's just we all had friends like the people in that movie, and I feel like for people our age it does bring that back because I feel like it's very nostalgic watching it now, but watching it then it was very of the time, it was very right then and there.
Okay, my final thoughts on this film is, again, it cannot be replicated or remade. It caught a magic in a time period of the 80s, and it's still timeless. You could still view it today, still relate to the same problems. It caught a genuine aesthetic of what it was like to be a young adolescent in high school with problems that seem like they're the end of the world, but end up working out eventually. And you look back on it as an adulthood, but at the time, it feels like heavy, end of the world type shit. And no other film captured the rawness of that in than Fast Times. It's monumentally significant film. It's in my top 50 favorite films for sure.
Fantastic, dude.
So that wraps up.
Yep.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate it. The Retro Film Podcast. We will have another episode up eventually. So please stay tuned. And again, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Well, this concludes this episode of the Retro Film Podcast on Fast Times at Ridgemont High. If you'd like to watch Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you can check some of your favorite streaming services or go old school, purchase yourself a physical copy. If you enjoyed this episode of the Retro Film Podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support as much as we love watching these movies. Thank you so much for listening. Hope you join us for future episodes.